Hello, welcome to my watercolour channel. Okay, so for this demonstration I'm going to be using watercolour with a paint thickening medium called Aquapasto to create these semi-abstract landscapes, and I'll also be using a squidgy. Okay, so I'm showing these paintings in reverse order because I actually did this one second, and I'll show the first one I did after this. Okay, so the results and the colours were very different for each, but the process was very similar. And what I did to start with was just lay down my colours to create a base layer for this painting, and I wanted to keep these layers quite light, not too heavy, so I used quite a bit of water. Now I just divided the page up into these 4 rectangles, but I think really you could just experiment here and try doing anything. There's no real sort of right or wrong way to do it. In terms of my colour palette, I did try to follow the principle of a limited colour palette, and I did try to get quite a few neutrals and muted down colours by mixing my colours together. I think this way, when you put a brighter colour down, it can look brighter against the neutrals, and then also the painting doesn't become too overwhelming with lots of different bright colours. Okay, so here I'm using my knife and I'm just scratching in some shapes. Now I haven't added any Aquapasto yet, so the initial layers I've just put down using normal water. Now obviously I am speeding bits up in between where the paint is drying, and I'm just rearranging my desk there to have my paints on the right, which is much more logical than having them above the painting. So here I've added a little bit of Aquapasto to this paint, and this colour I think must be a bit of cobalt blue and a bit of the burnt sienna to make this kind of neutrally sort of grey brown colour. And I'm now adding on top of that this sort of purpley blue colour, which I achieved with a cobalt blue and Winsor violet. And again, this layer has a bit of Aquapasto in it. It also has water. It's just a case of experimenting to get your levels right, but the idea is that you're sort of slowly building up to more and more Aquapasto. Now here it actually skipped, and I did a layer and I didn't film, but I've put below that purple a kind of more greeny blue colour. Now I was just mixing these colours on the palette, and I can't tell you exactly which mixes they are. I think I've put the colour palette there in text, and I think that you could just experiment with mixing or use different colours. So I'm working just quite instinctively really, and putting down the colours where I feel they should go. Working from left to right really helps to create the feeling of a landscape, and the fact that the base layer wasn't worked from exactly from left to right just makes the image a bit more dynamic. And then obviously those lines in there as well suggest a sort of texture. So I'm coming in again with my kind of purpley blue here, and I just left a bit of an area of lighter under that because I wanted to try and get a bright colour there with that bluey purple. And that's the thing with watercolour, you need to plan ahead a little bit, because once you get dark colours down, it's very difficult to get the colours to go on top and be bright. So you just need to bear that in mind when you're doing your painting. So this mix has more of the Aquapasto in, and I'm using my squidgy there to drag the paint across the page. And where the line is sort of uneven, I'm going to leave that effect. And I'm really just experimenting, and it is quite fun actually doing this. So I hope if you're giving it a go, you're really able to kind of go a bit experimental and see what effects you come up with. Okay, so I've got this sort of continuation from left to right with quite a few lines and colours, so I think the composition can probably take a block of a darker colour, which is what I've done in the bottom right hand corner. And again, I've pulled my squidgy all the way across and managed to make a line in that colour. Now I'm just going to balance the composition a bit by darkening up that left hand side. So I'm starting to feel like the painting is getting more or less finished, although you can't tell because I'm speeding up some of the parts. I'm sort of slowing down at this point as I'm sort of thinking a bit more about the moves that I'm going to make. And something that's nice about Aquapasto is it does slow the drying time down a bit, so it does give you a little bit more time to think about what you want to do, and you can still work into the Aquapasto well after you've put it down. Okay, so at this point I really did start to feel like this was getting finished, and I just decided to put a bit of cerulean blue in a kind of contrast to that more purpley blue on the left to sort of balance out the composition. I just put a little bit on that paper to see if I thought the colours would go together, and then I'm just putting a tiny bit of that there on the left hand side. Maybe I could have put more, I'm not sure. I probably could have carried on with this painting a bit more, but I was happy with it and I didn't want to overwork it, so I decided that it was time to call it finished. Okay, so probably my favourite part is taking the tape off, because then you get this really nice crisp edge and you can really see your painting then. Okay, so I was really happy with how this painting turned out. I'm definitely going to be using these colours again, and now it's time to talk about the next one. Okay, so for this next one I used different colours, but I followed similar steps. So I'm just going to put the music up and put some captions on the screen to explain each step, and then I'll jump in again at the end. Okay, so this painting is getting near to be finished as well, and I just wanted to jump in at this point and say that I do have other tutorials on my channel where I use Aquapasto. For example, this one here, I did these paintings in my sketchbook and they're even more abstract. But I'll put a link to that tutorial and the others in the description. So I was really quite happy with these two paintings. I think I slightly prefer the colours of the more bluey purpley one, but both were really fun and I feel like I learned a lot. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this demonstration, and if you did, then please hit the like button, and if you'd like to see similar videos in the future, then please subscribe to my channel. Okay, thank you, bye.